Hello. How's it going? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. You're having a good day so far. All right. We're back. It's a fresh week. And we're making a game. One struggle at a time. The current struggle being our entity component system, with which we will craft all of the various objects and things that we need. Hey, Fox Shadow. How's it going? How are you doing? I see you're still cranking out those devlogs. So it looks like progress is going good for you. What did I do over the weekend? I didn't do a lot over the weekend. I'm finally getting over my back pain, but I still didn't want to sit at the computer very long. We did a few things though. I messed around a little bit more with the construction of the component types. We have an enum that represents our ID now, so it's both, an int and a plain English word, so it's a little easier for us to do that. I ended up just putting in its own static class because I was like, couldn't be bothered to do anything else. Tried calling these just components for a while, but it got really confusing because these really aren't components, they're component types. We probably don't need partial anymore. Doing good. They got the power distribution system locked in. Hell yeah. That's so cool. That's always a super cool part about ship systems, power distribution. Got the X-Wing TIE Fighter ESL system working too. Man, yeah, you're a machine. Fox Shadow is working on a remake. Yeah, you can see it on the Discord. And you've got a channel. You've got your own YouTube channel. People should be checking out Fox Shadow. Matthew, welcome in. As someone with severe chronic back pain that works in IT, you empathize immensely. I appreciate that, Matthew. Yeah, I'm standing right now because standing is like the only thing I can do comfortably. So I'm just standing at work all day, every day, and that's like, it's cool, but it's straining after a while. Like, it's definitely healthier than sitting all day. But it's like, I don't have the muscles to like be standing all day. But it does keep me moving. It keeps me like kind of doing this, going back and forth, stretching. It's kind of scary. Like, after a whole day of standing, I feel pretty decent. And I'll compare it to like a full day of sitting when I'll go to bed and my feet are ice cold because I have like no circulation because I've been sitting all day. So this is definitely getting me to be better. Now I just got to start, stretching and exercising. Yeah, I wish there was a better way to shout out on YouTube. I don't know if there are any chat commands. I feel like there aren't. I bet I can add a recommended channel. I can definitely do it on Twitch. I'm gonna look at doing that. I highly recommend your devlogs. Matthew says, yeah, you get it. You're doing the same. Right as we speak. Fortunate enough to have an employer that provided a standing desk. Oh, yeah. Standing desk is so good. So crucial. You've thought about getting one of those big balls to work on core strength? Yeah, I've not been able to find one that's like the right size for me to sit on at work. I've like not been able to find one that's like the Goldilocks size. They're either too big or they're too small. Full day of sitting is a death sentence for your lower back? Yeah, I'm getting there. I'm a lot better than I was last week. Last week I could only sit down for like 30 minutes without like immense pain. Now I can sit down for like an hour or two before I just have to get up. So improvements are being made. But yeah, we'll be standing. What were we doing? Oh yeah, I was talking about what we'd gotten done. So I added just a simple little T get component, just where you can get a component back out from the chunk list. I think it's like not good because we end up grabbing a whole span just to read one index of the span. I'm wondering if it's better to just read from the memory directly. I guess it's the same because the memory is coded as a byte, so we need to do the cast either way. We have to do this memory marshal cast. At least it just gives us like a view into the memory. It's not like this huge thing we're passing around. It's just a view into the memory. It's kind of like passing a ref, like a ref struct or something. At least that's how it is effectively. What did we get rid of? I got rid of a couple things. I got rid of some of my hash collision detectors because I read up more about how C# does hashing. It's really good. I did not realize that a C# dictionary will not only just do the hash part, but actually runs the equals comparison between the key and what you've submitted to make sure that it's actually the same thing. It's kind of smart. So I got rid of some of that stuff that we didn't need. Did you have some acute injury? Yeah, I did. I think it was kind of a mixed bag because I've definitely felt more discomfort over time because I've been working from home for the last few years. It's definitely got gotten worse, but then I definitely had like a triggering injury last week that just made it so I couldn't do anything. But I feel like my body's been showing me the signs for a while and I just ignored them. So, be healthy, everyone, especially since everyone watching this is probably at a computer right now. Stand up, do some stretches. Take a walk around your apartment. Or around the block if you can. Just stay moving. Always be moving. Stillness is death. Alright, what are we doing today? So today, we got a couple of things we need to do. I mean, we need to just build out the rest of the required functionality for a component system in the short term. So we can register components, we create our archetypes as we need them. We create component types as we need them. Right now, I'm just having each component type, like an entity ID or a position or a direction. When the game starts, it basically registers. Anytime anyone calls this component type, it just gets the component type. And if the component type doesn't exist, it will create it. We probably need to have a similar thing. I've kind of just encapsulated it so that anyone calling get component type, it's more of a get or create, which this is a fancy little thing. I love this double question mark thing. This double question mark thing basically says, if this result is null, do this. Kind of cool. So either it'll grab us the component that corresponds to this type ID, or it will just create that component type and return it. Kind of fancy. You have an exercise ball, Fox? That's good. Matthew says, nothing says I'm an adult like ignoring pain indicators and refusing to see a physician. Yeah, exactly. Sitting for a long time is so bad for you. It's incredible. I used to work on my feet before I started working from home. I worked on my feet all day. I was moving around all day. I stopped doing that. I gained like 50 pounds and I'm in poor health. So yeah. Sitting all day is no good. Fox says a fun little thing. If you do have to sit for a while, do calf hopping to keep things moving, like flat foot to tippy toes. That's a good idea. I kind of do that while standing. That's why I'm constantly shifting my weight around, but I should do more of that stuff while sitting. Matthew says you played drums your whole life, so you're always air drumming when seated. You think you're doing some variation of that? Oh yeah, you got like a double kick drum underneath you. Got like an imaginary kick pedal, or two kick pedals even. You went from putting up awnings for a decade and then got into tech IT, and the rate that your body fell apart was astounding. Exactly. That's exactly. I got out of retail. And so I was used to, I'd bike to and from work and I'd be on my feet all day. I did that for like a decade. And then in just a few years of working from home, my body has like fallen apart. It's incredible. It's incredible how quickly that transition happens. You know what we're going to write today? So we've written the add component. Let's write the remove component. And then if we have time, we'll write a set component. Because if we have add, get, set, and remove, that's like the core. That's like the core things. I think we'll be okay for a moment with that. I wonder if we need to know the type to remove the component. We might not. We might not need that. Double kick all day? Yeah, exactly. You know. You know it. You were a working drummer for over a decade, Fox? That's amazing. I was never a drummer, but I have been into music at various points. I can play a small handful of stringed instruments. And I was always jealous of the drummers because the drummers could just sit down and play with anybody pretty much. They didn't have to learn all this music. They didn't have to necessarily learn the songs. They could just sit down and play with pretty much anyone if they had a good sense of what was going on. I was like, that's not fair. I have to learn songs and stuff. I have to read sheet music. You guys can just play. Oh yeah, apartment living. I don't know how you would play. Yeah, you'd get that Roland electric kit. Yeah, that's how you do it. All right, remove component. This music is strange. All right. All right, so to remove a component, we're basically doing the same steps as add component. We can probably just take almost all of this. We never really have to worry about removing the last component of something. Well, we probably, insofar as, there will always be an entity ID, and there should always be one other component. We should really never... I'm going to ignore the possibility of removing the last component of an entity, because that should never happen. And if it does happen, something's gone horribly wrong, so we're just going to ignore it for now. So destination archetype, yeah. Source archetype. So all of this is the same. Here's this part, which I haven't figured out how to encapsulate yet. But this is basically find the archetype that corresponds to the new composition that we have once we remove this component. So we try to get the graph edges out. If we can get the graph edge, so instead of add component, we're looking for the remove component edge. I would change the structure, except we need to add... if it was just this, I could use that double quotation marks thing. But we need to do this in this case, so I'm going to keep this if-else structure. We need to add the graph edge if we don't have one. So, and this is with remove component instead of with add. So index of composition dot remove. Everyone needs drummers generally. If you're active, you suddenly are in 3+ bands in your town. The downside is loading, unloading your kit for a living sucks. Yeah, you do have the most kit, probably. Yeah, nothing can replace the feel of a real drum kit. You lived in a tight rented space for 2 years and had to practice for gigs on pillows. Oh man, on pillows. Yeah, that sounds rough. So what is this? So we're saying create archetype, source archetype.composition.add component type. Oh, we're adding a component to the composition and getting a composition back. I forgot that's how this works. And that's a function of composition. Yeah, so we take our composition and we just add the component to it and we return. I don't know why we sort these. There's a reason we sort them. I guess it's so that they match if we compare two that are the same. We always sort them so that if they have the same components, they'll always match because the components will be in the same position. So we have add. What we need is remove. So we need to do this whole process here, but with remove. Okay, let's add that. Let's add that. Oh wait, no, we have it. We have it here. We just haven't used it. Is this right? Offset. Oh, we introduce an offset because we may skip one of them if it's the component that we want to remove. So we'll skip it, which is why we introduce this offset. Is this right? So if not components I equals component type. So as long as this isn't the component we're trying to remove, then composition, that's the new composition, dot components, I equals components I plus offset. So if we do encounter one, we subtract one from offset. And that only affects where we're pulling from because the new one doesn't have that spot. Okay, yeah, that's fine. That should be good. And we just return the composition. Okay, so remove is already set up, so we should be able to just use it. So we just say remove. Matthew, you've switched to vocals, so you can be the laziest person in a group at any given moment. You just carry around a microphone with you, if anything. Or guitar, which you played as long as you played drums. Wow, you're an accomplished musician, it sounds like. I tried to play guitar when I was younger, but like my good friend that I was learning with was like almost like a prodigy, and it's like it's super demotivating when the person you're like learning with is like just leagues ahead of you. So I didn't really get into guitar very much. I can play it. I'm like, you know, I could play rhythm guitar if I needed to. I don't think I'd ever. I wouldn't want to play lead, but I did get into mandolin, and I enjoy mandolin. That's probably my only real competent instrument is mandolin. Now that is a small instrument. That's easy to carry around with you. What kind of music do you guys generally play? I mean, the double kick kind of indicates a certain direction, but I guess lots of people like the double kick. It doesn't necessarily mean anything. You're a trash lead guitarist, so you feel me? Mandolins are cool and light. Yeah, they're very light. They're very light. I got a big one. I got an octave mandolin, but I like can't get it to play right. I need to take it to a luthier. It has this low string buzz that I like can't fix. All right, so I don't think I need to pass in the type for this. Why do I need to pass in the type here? Because I need to create something? Like, what is this for? Oh, it's so that we can apply the value. Oh, are we not actually doing that at any point? We're not actually doing that. We're adding the component to the chunk. But we're not passing the value. We actually have to fix this. Huh. That's an oversight. So here we're copying everything over. Oh, we're not even finishing this, are we? We're copying everything over from the old chunk list to the new chunk list. Oh, we're using an index of to do this instead of like a lookup table. Didn't I just write a lookup table yesterday for this? Component indices. Yeah, I did write a lookup table. Why don't I use that? Instead of I'm doing an index of finding the component in the list. I mean, it's such a small list. Most entities are going to have like what, like a handful of components. I don't know why I'm doing it that way. Prog metal is your deal? Yeah, I had a feeling. I had a feeling it was some flavor of metal, but prog is cool. If you were a real musician, you'd play jazz. Jazz is tough. I like listening to jazz. I definitely don't have the skill to play it either. Okay, so we've identified some issues here with our add component. We're not actually adding the value. So to do that, so we do the copying. So we copy over everything from the source chunk, and then I just gave up, I guess. And so now what we need to do, we need to actually add the thing. So we can reuse this, I think. So here we would pass in the component type, which is the type of component that we want to add. I just did this in get component. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, here I changed this. So here it's an array index of the components. Index of is a linear search, isn't it? Yeah, I don't want to do a linear search. I want to just refer to this archetype.component indices, which is a new data structure I added, which is just a dictionary from a component type to an index in the list. It could arguably just be a lookup directly into the chunk list. But there's a reason I have it as an actual list, and I feel like it has to do with iterating. So I'm not just like dictionary, grab all the values, iterate through all of it. I could do that too. It doesn't really matter. It really doesn't matter. It's a little additional indirection to do it this way. But whatever, we need to get the index either way. Who cares? So let's do it this way. Let's instead say... Instead say archetype.component indices. Oh, archetypes? Wait, do we not have the archetype that we want? Oh, did you just correct it for me? Hold on. No, yeah, we had... Okay, it's DST archetype. Destination archetype. Dot. You're pretty sure it's a linear search? Yeah, that's my think. We're at a scale where it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. Like the difference between a linear search of a small list and a dictionary lookup is going to be measured in like the single-digit microseconds. It'll be like a few microseconds difference. At most. A few might even be generous, but let's do this. We're bothering to maintain this data structure, so let's use it. And the nice thing about archetypes is they're static. Like an archetype's list of components never changes. So this is an easy thing to maintain. We just basically make it once and then never again. And we eat the array index here. We eat the index of during their construction. So that's fine. We eat that once and then we never have to eat it again. And we only do this because I'm lazy and I like for each. But again, doesn't matter. There are times to go slow. All right, so we're doing it by, so let's do the same thing here. So we're gonna do, so we're looking at the chunk list and we're looking at it by, we could internalize a lot of this. We could just have an archetype.get chunk list for a component and it'll figure this all out for us. We should probably rewrite it to be that way instead of to do this horrible nonsense. But I just want to write it and then we'll figure out how we want to encapsulate things later. I don't care that much about encapsulating things early on. It's not a major concern. We'll do it eventually though. All right, so we got our chunk list. Destination archetype knows where its component index is for this. And it has a chunk list. Okay, so now is when we add the value. So we say, how do we do that here? Do we have something here for this? We have an add component. Why the hell does add component not add the value? What the hell? Why did I write it this way? So I have an add component, and it knows the chunk in the index. This is more of a move component than it is an add component. I guess this is two steps. There's add, which is you're adding it onto this chunk somewhere. But you're adding it from a source chunk. You're not just making it out of nowhere. Maybe this should be called move component. And then add component is something different. Add component, we actually pass the value of the thing we're trying to add. And we'll call this move component because we're moving it from one chunk to another. Yeah, let's do that. Move component. Move component should probably internalize this or just call into remove component at the end. Because we get the desk chunk. So a move component will take something from the source and put it at the destination. But the thing is, it needs to clean up the source. So it needs to do this remove component. Let's do that. Let's just call remove component from here. Do we not have a destination index? Oh, it's dest chunk dot. Wait, what the hell? So when we remove a component, we get the rewrite on the destination span. Destination is the wrong thing to refer to this by. And then we get source chunk and a source span. So we get the last set of chunks. Oh, I know what we're doing. We're closing the distance. So we're removing a component, but we're moving it further up. We're plugging the gap. We're removing a component and then plugging the gap behind it. We could probably come up with a better name for this. You have to go troubleshoot some print server printers, so you'll return in a bit. If you don't, you lost your mind and got fired. So if you don't return, you've lost your mind and you got fired launching a network printer out of a third-story window. You know, I think we've all been there. I don't think anything is more maddening than a network printer. They're not that complicated, but for some reason they're the most troublesome piece of technology that you can deal with. So good luck. I wish you good luck. I'm gonna sit here trying to figure out what I'm doing. Let's not call that from in here, because right now we're doing it. We're doing this. All of this is happening, and we're doing this from somewhere else. We're doing this from here. We're saying move component and then remove component. So we move this component over, and then we remove it, and we send the same thing. Oh, maybe we should just daisy chain. Oh shoot, no, we call this on different chunk lists. Ah, that's why we do it. Because the destination chunk, you move a component. Oh no, it's at I've constructed this very poorly. This should not be called on the chunk that it's. Maybe it should. I don't know. I don't know anymore. We're moving it from one chunk. We're moving it from one chunk list on one archetype to another archetype. Because we're doing this when we add or remove a component. And we just need to move over everything else that's unaffected otherwise. So we call this move component, and do we want to call it from the place it's moving to or the place it's moving from? Right now we have it called from the place it's moving to, and then we clean up from the place it's moving from. I think that's really confusing. Maybe we should call it move component to and pass in the destination and call it on the source, because then we can just call the remove on the same source. Maybe that's what we should do. Brohart TV. Tip to tip compression algorithm. Every chunk should only call the next chunk. You're talking about iterating through all the chunks, right? Oh, so you're saying me passing in the indices is like not terribly. Well, we're not doing that. We're moving things between chunks in separate lists. So these chunks are not in the same lists. This is for when we move an entity from one archetype to another archetype, so I don't think that works. But that's a good idea for when I'm operating within one list of chunks. Also, happy Tuesday. To you as well. How's the potato game going? I feel like you're getting close to the finish line on it. Oh, you're just being dumb quoting from Silicon Valley. That's fair. That's fair. That is fair. You know, I never watched that show, and I feel like it's too late to watch that show now because all of the memes and, like, the culture that it describes, like, it still exists kind of, but it's definitely not the same as the Silicon Valley culture that existed during the time that show was being made. Yeah, life is throwing crazy blockers, but looking to get demo out today, tomorrow. Wow, what are you doing here then? Then integrate the story for submission to Steam by Sunday night. Wow, you're crunching. Okay, yeah, I kind of like my... Maybe putting this functionality on the chunk list is a mistake. Maybe the chunk list shouldn't manage this stuff. I kind of want it to because for cleanup reasons. Like the reasons I have it so that if we end up with an empty chunk or whatever, the system can just take care of it by cleaning up the memory. Like, I want it to be able to handle the add chunk and remove chunk stuff, which it needs to do because it needs to keep track of its memory. So that's why we're doing this function on here, but it's just kind of messy. Maybe we're not encapsulating it enough. Maybe we need like a... Right now you're setting up lots of missile juice into the game and leaderboards. You're always extremely impressed with how you organize your Godot projects, so you're looking at it for inspiration. This is a very small project, but I appreciate that. We're trying. I mean, I definitely went off the deep end of organizing because I was like, you know, I'm just going to do everything in C# that doesn't... anything that doesn't talk to the renderer or the UI, we'll just do it totally outside the engine. Because that seemed like a good idea at the time. But here we are grappling with an entity component system. It's not all maingame.gd and maingame.scene. It's amazing you can do that. I appreciate that. I want to let you in on a little secret. Here's the root script of the whole game. I mean, there's nothing in here right now, but this is the root script. It's a game. It's a node named game. Writing an entity component system in Love 2D made you move to Godot. Oh, man. Okay. So yeah, it's a node called game. It has a main system that's like the mother system that runs all the other systems. It has a static read-only input and world, and these are just like... The world is doing a lot right now because the world is acting as an entity manager. I don't know if that's going to always be the case, but it really just... And then anything in the world is going to be underneath our board, node 2D. So we have our game board, and confusingly our game world, which are different things. I don't know if I love that, but I should probably rename world to data or something like that. But world is the typical name people use in an ECS, so it really doesn't do anything. It calls the main system with delta, because this is the only script that's hooked into the process. I should actually make this physics process, huh? If I want it to be consistent. I guess I don't care. If I wanted to have a consistent simulation frame rate, I could make it physics process. And then there's some stuff happening with enqueuing commands from the input, but I've barely touched this part of it yet. But yeah, it's pretty simple organization so far. We cracked it, take notes. We see your root code. Yeah, steal it quick. Steal all my code. World data. Is simulation frame rate important? Do you have a real-time gameplay loop for turn-based? It's real-time, so it should probably be consistent. I mean, delta helps a lot, but also, like... It'd probably be nice for it to be consistent. I would rather the gameplay simulation not be, like, at the whim of people's, like, vertical sync. I mean, I can always use delta to, like, limit some stuff, but delta doesn't fix everything, and delta is not perfect. So yeah, maybe we do that. That's not the right way to say this in C#. Time to look at the C# API. Getting distracted. Dropped an example of the missile defense with Jibs in chat. Hopefully it's not too gory. Oh, and share your work? Yeah, cool. No worries. I'll check it out. Let me screen it, and then if it's cool. And I'm so... the Fox Shadow, your power system thing is so cool. Look at how cool this is. We're gonna look at this stuff. We're gonna look at the stuff people are posting. Is there audio to these? I guess I can find out. This is so cool. You've got your power distribution system. You're setting it up. You're not sure on yours? Hold on a second. Oh, is this someone who like snuck past? And you have to like, part of the game is you have to like take them out? Oh, you got a runner. Yeah, it says so in the UI. Oh, that's horrible. But also hilarious. Oh, nice. Yeah, that is juicy. Did they make French fries? Are they exploding? Is this potato exploding into French fries? Is this what's happening right now? That's what I'm getting from this. That is so funny. Sorry, a spam bot seems to be trying to friend me on Discord. It's distracting. Oh yeah, no worries. The UI does look like it's for testing. You have to launch a missile and aim it on them now. He drew the little French fries. That's genius. I enjoy that. All right. So where's like the physics process? Because it didn't seem to work. How am I encountering this issue? Look, override void process double delta. So why can't I just change that to physics process using the same system? Show me an example using physics, please. So why can't I do this? Because this is... Oh, is it because you're a node? No, that doesn't make sense. Oh, physics process, there's no middle. There we go. Yeah, let's make that consistent. Just so that our game simulation is running at a consistent FPS. Minor tweak and a momentary distraction. Discord spam bots are crazy. Yeah, the Discord spam bots are... They really try. All right. So, I don't like this. I don't like the way that we do this. So we could call this move component from this chunk, and then it's at least clear what it's doing. It's taking a component from this chunk and moving it into our list. And we could call this remove component to. No, that doesn't make sense. So destination span, rewrite this chunk. How am I getting this chunk? So we're passing, what chunk are we passing here? Source chunk, chunk 0, source span, read only. Yeah, it is remove component 2. Because this is the chunk that we've just freed up. Because this is the same, these are the same chunk and index that we're passing into move component. So maybe it's just a naming convention thing that I just need to change just to make it more clear what's happening. So let's call this move component from. Is this really the same thing? No, not really. Let's call this move component from, and we'll call this remove component to. Oops. Use that rename. It's a little more clear. I still don't love it, but it's a little more clear what we're doing. We're moving a component from this chunk at this index into our first available one. And then here we're removing the last component, like we're removing a component to this chunk at this index. And we're using the first available chunk for each of these. And if we need to, we will either add or remove a chunk following this maneuver. I think that's fine. I think that's fine. All right, we're almost up with our first hour. I'm gonna try to go 3 hours today. I think my legs and my back are going to allow for it. We're gonna try it. Because we got this brand new schedule, we might as well make use of it, right? I still don't love this, but we're gonna make it work. This is okay for now. And the most important thing is that we've freed up space for like an add component or something like that. Because we need to be able to do something like destination chunk list dot add component type value. Do we need to keep track of the entity ID? No, because we've moved everything over, including the entity ID. Because we're treating the entity ID as a component. Which I think is smart. I think that's rather smart. Makes it maybe a little harder to find the entity component list. But we know what index it's in. So it should be fine. Let's call this add component value, maybe. And that should be the remainder. I can't believe I missed that on here. We did all of the trouble of moving all the components over, and the only thing we didn't do was move the value, was set the value. So stupid. All right, let's do that. So this is gonna be, oh, excuse me. Override voids? Oh, this has to be override voids, right? Abstract void. Add component value. Component type. T. Oh, shoot. Shoot. We have a problem. I can't use T here. How are we gonna do this? The moving works because it's not type specific. So how do we do this get component thing? Oh, we're like reading directly into the chunk list, huh? We're gonna need to do that. Oh, no. We're using the same trick as here. Well, it's a little different, isn't it? It's a little different. Because here we're able to take advantage of the fact that this chunk list knows what type it is. And so it can just move the components around without any trickery. Problem is, we do need to somehow get it a value. And we can't do it because we're constrained by our abstract base class chunk list. And we can't pass a T to it. I mean, we could be insane and literally add a variant of this for every possible, like... How does this hide that? I don't know. How do I want to do this? I was going to use queries to kind of get around some of this and to have systems do this sort of thing. Maybe the chunk list really shouldn't be managing a lot of this stuff for us. Maybe there's a limit to what it can do. Because we definitely can't do this add component value thing. All right, we got ads coming up in a minute. I'm going to take a short break when they hit. But we'll be back after about three minutes or so once the ads hit. Gotta take a quick bio break here. But I appreciate everyone hanging out today. I hope everyone's having a relatively productive day, or even just a good day. It doesn't have to be productive. Reclaim your labor. Class chunk list is never instantiated. I don't believe you. Maybe that's true. Oh, we declare a list of chunk list, but we don't actually populate them with the specific ones. Oh. Yeah, we need to do that, don't we? How am I going to do that? We have some challenges. We have some generic type challenges here. Two nerdy nerds. Welcome in. Hey, Ferlansky. Oh, you're hopping in too. You missed a couple of streams. No worries. We're back. Hopefully this will be our first full week here at our new schedule. We just hit ads. I'm going to take a few minutes break, but I'll be right back. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. All right, we're back. Oh, the release is going great. That's great to hear. No major bugs. That's all you can hope for. Oh, nice. Yeah, you got into the cooking event on Steam. That's awesome. It's awesome, nerds. Your dream was making it past 100 sales and you smashed past it. Anything above that feels like a gift. No, I think you're doing great. You got a really positive review score. I'm glad you're taking a break. I think you said you're not going live again until Saturday. I think that's great. What's even going to be next? You're at the top of your game. I don't know. Where do you go from here? All right, so we have a few problems that have become identified. I'm really just running into lots of trouble by the fact that we have all these type-specific things, like a type-specific chunk list, type-specific component types, and we do that so that we can infer some things about the types that we're dealing with. But it's causing some problems because we can't just have a list of these different things if they're different types. We have to refer to them by this abstract class version. So everything that we do with them has to be kind of go through here. And that is the struggle we're dealing with, especially here, because it's like we want to pass through the value of a component. And actually, in fact, we need to declare all of these different chunk lists by their type so we can do this. Apparently, we're not doing that, which is correct because when we declare the archetype, we just declare a new array of chunk lists. They don't have types. That's a problem. So we need to somehow go through, so we can get their component type from their composition. Ugh, this is the struggle. We know that the composition is getting these new component types. We're copying them over. When we just make a composition out of nothing, what are we doing? I guess we're passing them this thing. Yeah, we have some problems. Hey, Frolansky, it's going good. My back pain's better. How are you doing? Tuner Nerd's coming back with a 2-day jam to destroy all the rest we're having now. Oh yeah, what are you doing? Are you doing Tobu Jam? I feel like that's this weekend, isn't it? Yeah, I injured my back last Monday. It's getting better though. Last week was kind of not great. But we're standing, we're moving, we're grooving. We're running into some pretty horrible consequences of the way I've decided to structure this system. So we need to think about a couple of things here. People in the wider world tend to do this kind of stuff with like templates. They do it with like source generators and stuff. And it's like, I don't want to do that, but I feel like we're running out of alternatives. I thought this was pretty clever. I feel like there is a world in which we're able to pass data around in byte form. Maximum warp. Thanks for Lansky. Yeah, Tobu Jam. You know the pain? You had an episode not long ago, stuck in bed for a couple days. Yeah. For me, I couldn't even be stuck in bed because being like the thing that hurt the worst was sitting, but lying down was not much better. So I was just like, the only thing I could do is stand and walk. So that's all I did. And I got so tired. Matthew, are you not facing horrifying consequences for decisions you made at the beginning of a project? Oh, if you're not, Yeah, facing horrifying consequences for decisions you made at the beginning of a project. Are you really a developer? That's a good question. That's a good point. Welcome back. It's good to see you probably didn't get fired in the intervening time. All right, which of these is the more serious problem? It's probably not this making a component value. Let's just forget about that for a moment, and let's deal with some of the more serious problems. Excuse me. So this chunk list just has a new list of chunk lists, and they're the abstract chunk lists. We need to declare them as their type-specific ones. Well, I guess you can't do that, can you? Because they're not. How did I imagine I was going to get from here to there? How did I imagine that? Thanks, you appreciate it. You'd never guess this, but re-adding the networking pointer for the user resolved the issue. Incredible. I've had those issues. There's a printer at work that I cannot get to consistently work over the network, so I just do the direct connect thing. Like super weird, like device to device direct connect thing. I forgot what it's called, but it's something direct. Some HP thing. Print direct or whatever it was. And it's like it works, but it's such a weird. I hate printers so much. Luckily you don't need to print much nowadays. You really don't. I spend most of my time in just Adobe Acrobat, just making PDFs. Getting the computer to make PDFs for me is my dream. It's like my big dream. The next thing I want to automate. Yeah, so we have a weird, I don't know why I thought this was going to work, because we've got a chunk list, and we're making this chunk list, and this chunk list is not type specific. I wanted to fill it with type specific chunk lists, but we need to know the type to do that. And the only way we can get to the type is from the composition and the component type. And the component type has like a type ID thing. Maybe there's a way to do this. Maybe there's a way to do this. What if we have like... We're using an enum. What if we use the enum alternative? What if we do this? I was reading about this earlier. What if we do this thing? C# enum alternative. Is this it? Is this the thing I was reading? Oh, I hate this. I hate this where you can't get rid of the sidebar by zooming. You just have to deal with it. We just have to deal with these cute web comics. Got a dash, running errands, no worries. Thanks for stopping by. Verlansky. This, we could do this. It's called the type-safe enum pattern. That website cannot be reached. We could maybe do something here where we could maybe put... no, we can't. They'd be different types. Maybe we can. Maybe we can get the type here. What if we do like roll T, and then we have different roll T's with different T's? It's really stupid, but I think it might be a way that we can pass the types around. Let me think about that. Let me see about that. So we need to get this T out of here. All right, can we do this? Can we do this? Public static component T. We say like why are you warning me about a static property and a generic, generic type? What is this problem? Having a static field or auto property in a generic type is a sign of an error. The reason for this is that a static member in a generic type will not be shared among instances of different closed constructed types. This means that for a generic class, myGenericT, which has public static string myprop, values of myGeneric int.myprop and myGeneric string.myprop have completely different independent values. If you need to have a static field shared between instances with different generic arguments, define a non-generic base class to store your static members, then set your generic type to inherit from this. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. I guess I just haven't declared any members yet. Maybe I did this a little wrong. We do it this way. We say public component position. We do it here. I'm really messing with some stuff here. Property cannot be of static class type .di position. I'm messing this up. I have this idea that's on like the tip of my brain, but I'm not quite getting there. Public class role, I have it backwards. The component class is not static. Maybe this one is, and then this one isn't. Okay, now how can we use this? This feels wrong, but it might work. So we can say component dot. Maybe this is component dot. Maybe this is, we put this under component type. And then we put a bunch of information under here. Maybe we've rewritten how the component type works. We can still have a type ID. It doesn't need to be an enum necessarily now. I mean, it could be. This is interesting. This is interesting because we could just say component.position, and then we can get the. Well, how do we get the T out of here? I guess we need to put some. We need to put some. Yeah, this is weird, but I think we're heading in a direction. We're heading in a direction. The point is that we're trying to figure out a way of getting types that we can use for our type-specific things here without necessarily having direct access to it. And we can get access to it by something like this, maybe. By this like type-safe enum alternative thing. We have a public class component, and we have a public static component for position ID. So we'd also have like a public static component for entity ID. Entity ID. And I guess we could initialize it with whatever information we needed. And we'd also have access to the type. I guess we do something like this. Can I just... Do I need to put that here? Can I just do this? Yeah, I thought so. Hey, Tabugi. How's it going? All right, should I try moving some of this component type information over there? We could move... Well, no, we can't have this list of archetypes, can we? Can you add things to a static list? I feel like the answer should be no, right? Taking a bit of rest before Tobu Jam? We were just talking about that. I was just talking about that with the Two Native Nerds. That's very exciting. I am recovering from some back pain that I was afflicted with last week, but I'm getting better, doing good. We're mainly fighting, we're mainly trying to abuse a generic type system so that we can manipulate all these things that don't know their types and then grab the type when we need it. So we can have like lists of lists, and each list is type specific, but the list of lists is not type specific, things like that, like very abusable ways of storing things. So I'm thinking of a new way of doing it by using this kind of, instead of having an enum of the type IDs, which we'll keep around probably. We'll also have, we might have this static list here. And so we're kind of pushing this down. But I think making it static, it lets us do this in a way that gets around this problem. We're kind of generating the same issue, but I think declaring each, like this is basically a component type. So yeah, we should make this part of the component type. And then think about what parts of this we don't need. Because things like size, we can just get size by calling, because that's what we're doing here. We're saying calling size is utility.getComponent size of t. Stuff like that. This list of archetypes, I'm curious about whether we can do that. Having these be static, I think, is fine because we only need one of them. I don't know if we can put a list of archetypes on a static component type. We might need to just do that as a dictionary of a list. Or a set, something like that. Sorry to hear it. Your whole year was going to Kine every week because of a herniated disc. Yeah. I'm not quite that bad, but yeah, I've been standing for like over a week. Very little sitting. But I appreciate that. Okay, I think we're figuring this out. I should probably read the rest of this article, because I'm kind of ignored most of these things. So we can get things like its name, its integer value. So we don't actually need an enum for this. There's some cool stuff that doing it this way gets us, rather than just having an enum of roles. So instead of this, we're switching to an alternative. Then we don't have this awkward thing of where we have undefined. Well, we still do have that, I guess, huh? Yeah, I guess the undeclared enum value is a problem, for sure. An osteopath, okay. There's a diacritical mark on that word, so I no longer know how to pronounce it. But that's only because I'm American. And we don't use diacritical marks. All right, so yeah, we like this. We like this type safe enum pattern. Let's see about the rest of it. So when we make a new role, it's private because we only make them internally, I guess. Like we don't make any new ones. We just make them all at the start. I kind of like that. Because right now we're doing this get or create process. I also like this because you can have basically a list of all of them. You could also have a dictionary, which is kind of cool. Kind of tempted to use a dictionary keyed by value here. There's got to be a better way to do this. I feel like I read a better way to do this. And then there's some... Oh, and then you can cast from strings to roles. We could just still put an enum in there. I mean, they're doing the integer value thing. So we'd probably put an in... it's probably better to have a name and a value. The only reason I'd do the enum still is so we could have like a bit flag system. That'd be kind of cool to be able to do it with bit flags to like know what the composition of something was. Instead of having the full array. Because right now we're passing around full arrays. Excuse me 1 second. Matthew says, diacritical characters are just above our intellectual pay grade here in America. Yeah, exactly. We encounter them so rarely, and our education system is such trash that no one bothered to teach us. I think if I'd studied classical Greece in school, if I'd studied ancient Greek, I probably would have learned how to pronounce diacritical marks. Or, if I'd studied any language. I'm a monolinguist. I speak one language, and I do so quite poorly. Oh yeah, this is what I'd read. Yeah, there's a better way to do this list, and it's to... Oh, so you take the... Oh, you do some magic here. What is this? Link? This looks like Link. I don't love that. I kind of want to use this with an enum. Is that so crazy? Yeah, so here they've just got a static list, and they make a new list, and then they update. Whenever they create one of these, they just add it to the list. I feel like that's just the way to do it. We could even do a dictionary. This feels good. This feels like the right way to approach this. You studied Latin for 6 years and you remember none of it, nor retained any such ability to utilize diacritical marks. Education system bad and I bad student. Yeah, I'm a terrible student. Tuner nerds, you're right, you've been talking ever since I got here and you understood nothing. Are you sure it's English? I guess you know what an enum is. I think you're making fun of my ability to speak, but you're just blissfully ignorant of all this C# stuff. You're just happy in GDScript land. I mean, it works. You've published a game. You just need GDScript. You don't need all this fancy stuff. I don't know what I'm doing over here. Matthew, you're determined to learn German one day. I think it's the coolest language, and my mother's side are German. That's cool. I was told I would have the easiest time learning Danish because it's like the closest to English. I don't know why I would learn Danish. I think it would be fun, but I'm just so bad at languages. I like etymology, but beyond that, I have very little interest. Okay, I don't think we're doing whatever this is. This is a special enumeration class that this person's making. I don't feel like we need this, but we could maybe do this at some point. I'm going to keep it around. We don't need this. Okay, I think I have an idea of what we're doing. So we'll have the name, we'll have the index. And we may have some other things. So we'll have something like... So I don't know about this enum. I'm not convinced we're going to use this enum. So we do want a list. We want like a list of... This is going to become component type. I'm going to recreate component type using this new process. I should probably clarify that this will actually work for us first. So let's try to find a way we'll do this. So we can say something like... So if a composition is made of components, we still need to be able to get the type out of here. So I guess we can just get the component T somehow by asking for like... We could have something like public abstract. Well... We can't return the T because we don't have the T to... No, we can. We can say public abstract component T get type. Let's not worry about the specific where T is T is a component. T is unmanaged. So why can't I get a T here? Because it's abstract, right? Oh, it's not. It would be T, get type T. So why am I only doing this here? Why can't I do this somewhere else? Public abstract, get type. Okay, so this can't be abstract. Non-abstract and non-external method must declare a body. in an abstract method in a non-abstract. Oh. So why doesn't this work? Abstract inherited member. Oh, easy. GG. So you can get a specific type out of this abstract class. Maybe I don't even need this. I mean, I probably do. It could simplify our composition system, because our composition system is an array, whereas it's an array of component types, and component types are classes. It could just be a list of numbers, and we could do lookups if we needed to. I really don't like this composition that's just a struct with this just array of classes in it. I don't love that. So this gets us some things. So we would say, so component type would be like, so we'd say public override void, no, override T, get type T. Well, hold on. Get type T. No, this doesn't quite work, does it? Type parameter name is not valid at this point. Type parameter T is the same name as the type parameter for outer class. Okay. Is it not called override? I thought we override it. We do override it. Life might be better if you don't know what an enum is. Yeah, maybe. You'd love to learn Danish so you can potentially wrangle your way into a conversation with DHH. There you go. Life goals. All right. We're getting wrapped up here. We're getting wrangled by this need to get this type out, but without necessarily being able to do it. So we have a list of all of these. We know the number. We know the index into this list. So we have a list here. We have a public static list of components. Component types. A new list. Oh, we just say new. We just need to import something. What is that? Alt enter. So we have a list of components. So we can get to one of these. All right. Let's not worry about this part yet. Let's get the constructor here. So private component. We're having a bit of a struggle here. Component, private component. introducing types to this is definitely where this is getting complicated. So we say private component. We don't have any parameters yet, so new component. My constructor abstract? Do I even need a constructor? An abstract class doesn't need a constructor. I don't know what I'm doing. Private component T. What is it on about with this tuple thing? Let's give us some properties, I guess. Who cares? Public string name. Index. All right, so init, give it an init. We say component types dot add this. So we have a number that we can use to represent this list of components here, or this component in this list of component things. It refers to this component.entityId. And this has a definite type. It's weird that we don't use this. We need to try to use this. Not convinced that we can actually do this, but I'd like to think that we can. Can we get a component T out of this list is the question. How do we get from this list back to this list? I want this type information. That's the whole reason we're doing this, is to get this type information. Maybe this is how we do it. Public T, get type T. This as T, that's a thing. It's wild. This can be abstract. Implement this. T1, huh? That's T1. I just want it to be T. Type parameter T has the same name as the type parameter from outer class component T. Outer class component T. Yeah, that's correct. Why would you complain about this? Does that work? Does this work? Can we just return T? No, we cannot. Because it's not this T. That parameter is not valid at this point. All right, how do we do this? How do we get this? So let's say component types index we can return this component type component T. Can we not guarantee this? Where T is unmanaged. Just got to get this type out of here so we can actually use it or something. This list thing doesn't work. It just gives us this component. Turn this dot. We really dug ourselves a hole here. I need to do some more reading and figure out how one gets around this issue. But we're just going to keep struggling for now because I said I was going to be live for 3 hours and I'm going to do it. want these types. This is what I want. I want to get these types. Component of type direction. I cannot convert expression type T to return type T. Type as T. I guess it doesn't matter because we don't have this in our constructor. Really hard to get to compile time safety trying to do what I'm trying to do. Need to know this to call into this. This is the problem. So what if we put, say some things like this? What if we do all of the construction down here? Public, abstract, T, type. Where T. Ellison Dreamy, hi, how's it going? Welcome in. These guys have a definite type. I really don't want to make a variant for this. For every single one of these. Oh, we need to do a base, and it's... Is that how we do it here? It's not really how I do it here, is it? Doesn't seem to be how I'm doing it here. So why are you complaining about that? Override int index. I shouldn't need to do this. Maybe I don't need to do this in the constructor. Weird that that's requiring that here. Didn't require it elsewhere. Scott, mostly just lurking in the background today, trying to get something shipped out the door for work. No worries, I appreciate you popping in to say hi. Good luck with your work here. T1, this is interesting, this T1. So it's treating these as different types. Can I convince it that it's the same type? Yeah. That's what I want. This is what I want here. I want you to just return T. Do I need to do this? New entity ID. Type of instance. No, we know the instance. We know what the type this is. Great, how's it going for me? You recently discovered my channel, seeing you making a game in Godot, so cool. You're also making a game? Do you have any mids, beginners tips? You're also making a game in Godot? What kind of game are you making? Yeah, I need to use some reflection. Reflection time, y'all. Can you not just omit making get type generic? I believe it should automatically get T from component T. Maybe, Scott. The thing is, we also have to declare it up here. So what do you set as the return type here? Platformer, fighting, roguelike. Oh, platformer, fighting, roguelike. That is a lot. Single player? Probably, I would presume, if it's a roguelike. You're essentially overwriting that T when you add it again. Yeah, okay, let's try it. Because it has to be written like this up here. But if I try to implement it down here, it's T1. I guess T1 is fine. Maybe we just return T as T1. Maybe I just need to acknowledge the fact that they could be different. Should be able to make the return type T. It should get the value from the class. I would love that. Type parameter name is not valid at this point. You're not as fluent in C# but many C-like languages work that way. I feel like I'm abusing the way this is supposed to work. This doesn't really work anyway, the way it's called. I mean, the reason we need it is we need to be able to get the type out when we're like building the chunks and stuff and doing a number of other things. We'll be able to get the types. And we need to be able to get from the component to the type, which is why I was like, we can maybe do that in here somewhere if I just list the possible variations. But we never use this type. Let's read about reflection. Reflection probably has a way for us to do this. We need to examine the type object, okay? But I want the actual T back. If I could just pass type around and actually use it the same way, that would be great. But from what I've understood, just passing types around does not achieve the same goal. You asked for, sorry, Ellison, you asked for advice. And you said it's single player. Are you working in Godot? I'm sorry if you mentioned that already. Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, that's great. Is it 2D? I presume it's 2D. It sounds very cool. That's an interesting matchup. Platformer fighting roguelike. Makes me think of like a roguelike version of like a classic beat 'em up game, but with maybe a bigger focus on platforming. Is it more of a casual beat 'em up, or is it like a precision fighting game? Because I'm interested in how you are incorporating the roguelike element, like how you're incorporating like the ability to gain, like the gaining abilities and skills and things, and like expanding your character's power over the run. More like Super Smash Brothers. Oh, interesting. Very interesting. Okay, so it's kind of like you fighting like waves of or other NPCs. It's okay. It's like a single player version of Smash. Okay, that's really cool. Well, that solves a lot of problems for you. You don't need to worry about rollback and like other networking things. You probably just want to get really familiar with the physics system. Are you doing the art yourself? Is it assets? Or are you making them all? Because that's a huge time sink, for sure. Okay. Okay, we maybe have a way of doing this. Generic type is like a template. You cannot create instances of it unless you specify real types for its generic type parameters. Okay, I think we can get there using reflection. You want to make it easy to start and ability to grow in skill. The roguelite part is a funny part. Not like an arena type. Characters yourself, other stuff not sure yet. Okay. Yeah, I think the challenge for that is like Smash has these very small maps. And I think it'll be an interesting challenge to make bigger maps if it's a roguelike. Like you're progressing through a stage. I don't know if... It sounds like you're saying not like an arena, so you don't want to just have small closed arenas. Alright, so we get a type object that represents the generic type. Following code gets the generic type dictionary t-key t-value. Uses the get type through string method overload, and by get generic type definition method on the constructed type dictionary of string example. The make generic type method requires a generic type definition. Okay, so D4 gives them this generic type definition. Because they call get generic type definition on a concrete object. Construct an array of type arguments to substitute for the type parameters. The array must contain the correct number of type objects in the same order as they appear in the type parameter list. Call the make generic type method to bind the type arguments to the type parameters and construct the type. Use the create instance type method overload to create an object of the constructed type. Following code stores 2 instances of the example class in the resulting dictionary. Okay, I'm starting to think I understand how we're going to do this. I think we're somewhat on the right track by having this be tied to the component type, these static component types, but we need a way of getting and returning their generic type. I don't want display generic type. I want more examples of the make generic type method. This is definitely the function that we need here. Substitutes the elements of an array of types for the type parameters of the current generic type definition and returns a type object representing the resulting constructed type. It returns a type object. Okay, but that's not what I want. See, the only way I can see how to do this is we end up passing types around everywhere, and I feel like that's not sufficient for us. I feel like passing types around is not the thing, because I can't use them the same way. I guess there are ways to call methods to get methods and properties and things. And fields from a type. Yeah, this is tough. This is tough. There's something I'm missing. Sorry if I'm getting kind of quiet. This is an interesting challenge. Maybe we can ask if something's a subclass of something else, and then we can invoke a member of the subclass. It's really not great. We need a better way of doing this sort of thing. The music, the song that's playing right now is Reflect. I don't know, Ellison. As far as advice, my advice would be to just keep the game playable as often as possible. Just like, because when you're doing what I'm doing, which I hate to do, which is where you've deepened this code that doesn't run and you spend weeks working on this thing and you get no feedback on it, it's really hard. It's much better if you can maintain momentum by just, even if it's just something small, having something small that works and then working on it in a way that doesn't like break everything. I think that's huge from a motivation standpoint. I feel like knowing this is not helpful. All right, let's keep reading this. Let's see. Okay, so here, test T, where T is whatever. So define an example interface, test argument, define an example base class, define a generic class. Okay, so we have our base class. We have our generic variant. Parameter has 3 constraints. It must inherit test base. It must implement itest argument, and it must have a parameterless constructor. Define a class that meets the constraints of the type parameter of class test. We have a raid. Red alert. We're getting raided. NanoDev's coming in. How's it going, Raiders? How's the stream, NanoDev? Thank you for the raid. Really appreciate that. Let's take a momentary break from the insanity that I'm working on and just kind of show kind of the idea of this game here for the Raiders in chat. Stream went well, made huge progress on the intro cinematic and flow. That is great. I am not making progress. I'm like bending over backwards to try to get generics to work the way I want them to here. But hi, Raiders. We're working on an FTL-like, an isometric FTL-like in Godot. We're kind of trying to do like an FTL faster than light style starship simulation game. That's more sort of isometric, sort of side-on kind of perspective. This is our little style guide here. We're still deep into tool work. We're not really making the game yet. We're just working on the tools to make the game. I can't build the project now. Let me see if I can fix that enough so that I can at least show things. Just forget about this. And this. Neither of those work. So far we've been working on like an auto tiler mainly so that I can make ships. Right now it's really primitive and I can't really do much in terms of variety, but we've at least got an auto tiler that does all of the rendering for us very snappily. And we can kind of lay out these 3-dimensional shapes that will eventually grow into our spaceships. We can rotate. Let's add a roof here so that this behaves correctly. There we go. We're adding a little airlock here. A couple airlocks. Yeah, this is the we're laying the groundwork here. For a little Starship game. But very primitive, very early days. I appreciate the raid. Yeah, no worries, Lurk raid, need to run. The Commodore C64 feel is real. I appreciate that. We have some visibility issues that we need to address more than anything else. But Runty Robot, thanks for the comment. Appreciate you hanging out on the channel here. What we're working on right now is we've kind of decided that we want our game to exist in two different states. We want, like, there's the Godot part, which everyone's more familiar with, which is like, you know, the scene tree over here. But we want a really simple scene tree. We want, like, here's a game, here's a root node, which we call game. Here's our, like, a game board, which is where all the physically placed things will be. We got all the UI will be in here. And that's it. I mean, that's everything. But what the trick of it is that there's going to be a lot of things that are getting simulated that aren't on screen at a given time. And so only things that need to be rendered or UI interactable or both will be here, instantiated with the scene. All of the game logic and systems will be separate. It'll be off in C# land. And so kind of our architecture that we have in mind is something like we have like maybe an autoloader or two, like input handlers. These receive input from the nodes in the scene that are like mouse pickable and stuff like that. They'll talk to the scene manager, the game manager, which is that root game node, which is the root of the scene tree. That information will pass things to a series of C# managers, which we'll have a state manager. We'll have a bunch of different managers that run depending on the game state. They do all the manipulation of the data, all the simulation. They pass everything back through. We'll have a scene manager that manages updating or instantiating or destroying the nodes in the scene that need to be updated because of changes to the game state. That'll populate in the scene. And then those things in the scene that are all nodes and stuff can talk to the input handler and tell them, like, hey, the player clicked on this, or things like that. And then we're back at the top. So it's an interesting problem, trying to separate all the game data off into C# land here. And we're struggling through some stuff with generics right now. Because we're actually using an entity component system for this, which is never use an entity component system for your game because it's way too complicated and unnecessary. Theme Starship, Captain's attendance required in the holodeck. Yeah, we're going for the Starship theme. I really want to have all of that good stuff, all that good Star Trek stuff. The game is mostly going to be about directing your crew and rerouting power and stuff like that, like the good stuff. Like, because we have our isometric physical walls and stuff, I'm gonna have power actually routed through the walls. So like, let's say a wall gets blown up and like it cuts off the power supply. So you got to reroute the power through a different part of the ship, or you got to have someone like repair that wall. So I think the two main activities are going to be getting your crew where they need to be and getting power to the correct parts of the ship that you need to be able to like run the weapons or the shields or the engines. Yo, what application was that, Mad Chirpy? This was actually Obsidian. It's actually pretty cool. It has like a diagram system that you can just use, just mess around with. I have a bunch of different diagrams. Yeah, it's called the Canvas. The Canvas is super fancy. I love this thing. I can do something wild, like we can add a web page. Let's embed the Godot docs. Let's embed the Godot docs on this web page, or in this canvas. Check this out. It's a working web page. It's not just like a static thing. It's like it's like the actual web page. So you can have research, you can have writing, you can have a bunch of different stuff, all in these infinite canvases. I just use it for flowcharts and diagrams right now, but I think I'm going to eventually use it for more like mood boards and like design work. Probably a lot of stuff with narrative. I really like Obsidian. I recommend it. It's free, I think. Thank you for the follow, Mad Chirpy. Really appreciate that. So we know there will be a Borg DLC, same game but from the board perspective. That'd be pretty cool. I'm hesitant in my ability to like make aliens. I can barely do the little 2D duders here, the little like 14 pixel duders. But maybe. You've heard of it? You mainly use Notion, which you think is similar. Yeah, Notion's pretty similar. Notion's pretty similar. I don't know why you'd choose one or the other. I haven't used Notion enough to like have a strong opinion about it, but since I'm just a solo dev, Obsidian's good enough for me. Runty Robot, just call them the cuboids and make them all cubes with mustaches. That's not a terrible idea. We could do something like that. We could do some fun stuff like that. All right, so our struggle right now is we're trying to get type definition information out of these components. These component types, we need to be able to reference what component types we're talking about because a lot of times we're dealing with them generically. And so I'm trying to find a hook into them where we know, where we know explicitly what we're dealing with. Maybe we don't. Maybe we just need their indexes. The problem we ran into earlier today was passing in the value for adding a component to a chunk. Because the chunk knows what type it is, but we need to be able to pass in the value to it. And doing that is not easy because we're always referring to these. I don't think anything I've done today addresses that core problem, but we have other problems too, which is like if we're building out our lists of various components on our archetype, we need to know what kinds of components they are. And we do that here by some trickery, like we get the size of the largest component by reading the component type and its size, which a component type can tell you its size because it's a, excuse me, its abstract class is what we store everywhere, but they're all just abstracted properties that we implement in the type specific one. So you can just say size is the get component size of this T. So there's tricks like this, but we need more of these because we need to be able to get the specific type of something a lot. And that's the challenge. That is the challenge that we're currently running into. And we're reading a bit about using reflection to do this, but I feel like reflection just lets you pass around types. I don't think it actually gives you the exact type, the underlying type. It just gives you like type of, which gives you a type object. And I don't want the type object. I want like the actual thing, which is the struggle. Which maybe we can do it by type. I don't know. We're trying to figure this out. We're looking at this. This example seems promising because it has a test base, which is like what we have here, and then it has a specific test T. What's interesting, it has a class that extends from the test base but isn't test T, so I'm kind of interested where they're going with this. Mad Chirpy, you mainly use Notion for game development docs, notes and task boards, etc. You need to look into whether or not they got something similar to what you should. Yeah, I don't know if they have canvases or like flowcharts or things like that. I've started using it for flowcharts because I'm not a great documenter. I kind of just like, I have a hard time pre-imagining everything that I'm going to be doing or all the constraints that I'll be working under. So I kind of just head out. I kind of just do it. I kind of just get started and see where it takes me, which is cool, but maybe not the funnest thing to watch on stream sometimes when I don't know what I'm doing. All right, so this displays information about a generic type. I don't want that. I want like, get the generic type parameters or type arguments. Yeah, I see that. Following method displays information about a generic type parameter. I want to see this test T show up somewhere. I want to see how they use this with their system. They don't do it. Oh, here it is. Display generic type of test. This. Where is this? Where are they declaring this? Demonstrate the display generic type and display generic with a test class defined above. This shows base, interface, and special constraints. Yeah, this isn't quite what I want. This isn't quite what I want. I maybe need to just understand generics a bit better. Maybe there's some reading that needs to be done. Philip, Godot looks so much more OOP heavy in C# as opposed to GDScript. Yeah, it does really showcase that aspect of it, doesn't it? Interesting. TM. Huh, maybe we can do something like this. But the problem is we can't put this on the base class. Is the problem. Yeah, I need a crash course in that stuff. Because it's worked. We've been getting it to work for us so far, and I don't know if that's a fluke or there anything else. Definitely the problems that we're having now is like this. This is a good way to start. There's two key ones that I've identified, and one is how do we get the value into the chunk that we want to add it to? We can be cheeky and we can pass stuff around in like byte form as like an array of bytes, and like I don't like that. Like we could pass a value in as bytes and then the chunk would reinterpret it and add it. That's risky. That's super risky to do, to just be passing things around in byte form all the time. It's like very easy to make an error. But it would work and it would bypass some of our need for this. Because if you're just moving data around, you don't really need to know the type of that data. You just need to know the data. But it's risky. So we could do that to solve this one issue of being able to get the value that we want to add to the chunk into the chunk. That would work. Excuse me. For this issue of making an archetype and getting the chunk lists and making, because you have one chunk list for each component. And right now we just make a list for each component, but it's just an abstracted list. It's not the specific type particular one. So we would need to go through here, and for each component, we'd need to say like, chunk lists. we'd do this after component indices. We'd say variable component. Let's just say variable, yeah, component index is this. So we'd get the index of our component in the composition. We would say we'd assign it here. And then we could use that here to say chunk lists component index equals new chunk list. But here's where we need to put the T. So now we need to know the T type. So can I pass types into T's? Is this something like I'm like mistaken myself? Can I say something like entity ID dot type of? Can I pass a type of? Why didn't it let me do that? Type of. Because my understanding is that this is invalid. You don't pass types into here. Yeah, so the type of is not the argument type. It would just be this. But we can't do that. We need to do something else. We need to do something like, we need to actually get the type out of the component. And that's where the problem is. We need to be able to get from a component to the actual type that it represents, like an entity ID or a position or a direction. And so I'm started, because we have this type safe enum alternative, which is to actually list out the types that we have that actually have a type information here. Component with the type of entity ID. So if we can get this information out of here, and we have all of these listed in an array, the problem is, again, it's this non-type specific base class. And then we have a class that inherits from it that is type specific. And we need to be able to get this type of information out while dealing with the base class. It's a conundrum. And I think it can be done, but it is not easy. It is not easy or straightforward how to do this. So that's what we're working on at the moment. Here's a simple definition here. When you create an instance of a generic class, you specify the actual types to substitute for the type parameters. Yes. This establishes a new generic class referred to as a constructed generic class with your chosen types substituted everywhere. The type parameters appear. The result is a type-safe class that is tailored to your choice of types, as the following code illustrates. I get all of that. So if I could get the generic type parameters out as their actual T values, or I guess it would be the constructed generic types. I need to get the constructed generic type or constructed type. I need to get these values out. I need to know what they are. think covariance and contravariance is not quite what we need. Oh, maybe there's some interesting things going on here. This lets us switch between like base classes or derived classes. Maybe this is something we can use. Probably not. The alternative is to potentially use interfaces somehow, but I don't think that's the way to do it. Auntie Robot, thank you for the follow. Appreciate you hanging out here after the raid. We're really putting in the tough work here, which is getting the entity component system working. But once we have this underlying system together, I'm very excited for how we'll be able to put the game together in a way that the game state is truly separated from the rendering and the UI state. That's a good way to do it, typically. It's a lot more work involved here than I was expecting. This contravariant type parameter thing, or covariant or contravariant type parameter, is interesting. I don't think this quite works, because we would still need to specify the T. Something interesting there. I'm not quite sure yet. This is more advanced than I want. What was the issue again? Philip asks. It has to do with, there are times We're basically storing objects. We basically have two different versions of most of these classes we're working with, like a component type. It has a non-type specific base class, which is how we're storing them in a list. So like if we have a list of all component types, we use this. But it's an abstract class, so it just has a bunch of abstract methods. And then we have a derived class, which is component type of a particular type. And this lets us do tricks. Like I can tell you the size of this component by getting the component size based on its type. And because we have size as an abstract property on here, you can figure out the size of a component type without knowing what type it is. And we kind of need some of this flexibility because we're doing a lot of stuff with generics. But there are problems. So like there's a bunch of cool tricks I can do, but there's also some stuff that I have not figured out yet. Like how do you pass a value to this system because you only have the abstracted version. You don't have the type specific one. So I could pass bytes to this chunk, and then the chunk could reinterpret it by its type, but then I'm passing arrays of bytes around instead of actual values, which is like, it'd be okay, but that's not ideal. So I'm trying to come up with this trick where we can basically pull out the type that we're talking about from like, let's say like a list of them all. So the thing I'm trying to do here is have like a list of component types. Right now they're called components, but that's because I already have something called component type. So we have like a list of components, and then this list consists of all of the concrete component variants we have, like entity ID, position, direction. But I need a way of being able to pull this type information out and return it. And so this is why we're reading about reflection and stuff. But everything I'm reading about is about using type, this kind of type, the system type, which is like not what I want because you can't just use system type as if it's an actual type. You need to do a bunch of extra stuff. So we're figuring out a way of doing this. It's slow going, and I probably need to, you know, reassess some of my assumptions here, but it's kind of the struggle. But anyway, how are you doing? How are you doing today? So like for every entity ID has a component type associated with it kind of deal. And then so you could just know the index into it, and you could just know the number and get the type. That's essentially what I want. But it's not easy. Excuse me. You're fine, might go to sleep soon. That sounds nice. For me, it's still like, it's like lunchtime. So I gotta go do some laundry and get some food in a minute. But we're hanging out. We're hanging out for a little longer while I try to puzzle this out. So we have this list of components. The component list here is populated by these actual static type definitions that have an index and a name. Boogie, oh man, it's only 10 p.m. here, but so sleepy already. I feel that. All right. So we have this component T. So we see this problem crop up again because we need to know the type of this chunk list. So you need to say something like component type. Maybe there's something with that covariance. Maybe we can do something with that covariance that we were reading about. Because this is a list that consists of a component, but maybe we can talk about it in terms of component T. I didn't think that article was going to have anything for us, but maybe it does because of the way you can just go back and forth. The way you can do this back and forth casting. So covariance enables you to use a more derived type than originally specified. You can assign an instance of IEnumerable derived to a variable type of IEnumerable base. Contravariance allows you to use a more generic, less derived type than originally specified. You can assign an instance of action base to a variable of type action derived. Invariance, you can only use the type originally specified. So how do I open this up? So generic type parameters support covariance and contravariance. How do I enable them? List T class implements the IEnumerable T interface. So list of derived implements IEnumerable derived. The covariant type parameter does the rest. Where do I specify the covariant type parameter though? Do I not have to? Maybe interfaces are the trick here. Maybe there's a trick we can do with interfaces. We're still going? Yeah, we are, Fox. I'm actually probably wrapping up in a few minutes. Oh, we're still going. I think we're onto something here with the covariance of these functions here. Function base derived. This is interesting. Huh. So can we do something like this? That's the in and the out. We need some way of being able to get the type out of here without having to put it in up here. We'll figure that out. That's cool. I think there's a way. We're going to snooze the ads because we're going to be wrapping up soon. Let's find someone to raid then. Appreciate the nano dev raiders who are coming in here. Let's go see if we can pay it forward. You're a machine? Hardly. Just a few hours. I'm trying to do at least 3 hours a day here. Okay, Symbol's got a new thing going. Symbol's got a new project going today. Tower Offense. Dev Day 1. That sounds fun. Let's go see what Symbol's doing. Symbol's a great Godot dev. Thanks for hanging out, Tabugi. Good luck with the jam this weekend. I'm hoping I'll be able to tune into it. I don't think I can participate, but I want to at least watch everything everyone's working on. Really appreciate everyone hanging out as I kind of just struggle bust this today. Sometimes that's just how it goes. You just hit your head against a wall, and eventually you find a crack in the wall somewhere. You just can't do that until you've become a liquid and you can pour through the wall. So it's a struggle. It's a process. Thanks, Matthew. Thanks, Fox. Thanks, Philip, Ellison. Everyone hanging out today. Scott. Everyone on Runty Robot, Mad Chirpy, NanoDev. Tuner Nerds. A Godot dev should be called a Godot. A Godot. Yeah, maybe. All right. Well, thanks everyone for watching today. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place, same problem probably. But I'll try to do some research tonight and figure out some potential solutions. Or your skull forces a crack to emerge from sheer repeated impact. You know, whatever it takes. Whatever it takes. All right. Thanks for joining me on the raid Twitch side. And thanks everyone for watching on the YouTube side. I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and I will see you next time. Bye.